Before I digress into a narrative about the Lincoln Riley defenses, Oklahoma is trending for some really encouraging and intriguing defensive prospects in the 2026 recruiting class. We'll discuss them coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Oklahoma Sooners are trending for a big-time defensive tackle prospect in the 2026 recruiting class. One Bryant Harris out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. Got to get that Duval here to Oklahoma. Sorry, I got to say Duval every time just because of The Good Place. I don't know if y'all watched that show, The Good Place, but my man Jason Mendoza is he lives rent-free in my head with Duval. But Bryant Harris, man, he's going to be committing on May 23rd, so on Friday. And Oklahoma has been trending in this one for a minute, but he's got a ton of big-time offers right now on his ledger. South Carolina, Michigan, Alabama, Ole Miss, Colorado, Auburn, West Virginia, Mississippi State, NC State, Maryland, Louisville, Duke, and Penn State are all coming after him. But most recently, Marty Leap, who covers recruiting for Rivals and Penn State, predicted Oklahoma to be the landing spot for Bryant Harris.
Yeah, a lot of people love his game. And as you mentioned, he has a beautiful list of offers from a lot of the big programs that are the most important ones to really look at when it comes to trench play. He's built a very good reputation, and I love him at the point of entry. He's pretty violent coming off the line. So I like everything I've seen out of Bryant Harris. So he's not someone for me to even be worried about where his rankings are today. He's going to fly up the charts as he goes through training. I mean, remember Trent Wilson, when he committed to Oklahoma, he wasn't the highest at the time, but then he started winning all of these camps and being MVPs on a regular basis. And guess what happened? He moved up in the rankings. And so I think Bryant Harris will get a similar treatment. Nice size at 6'4", roughly 300 pounds. I think he's about 300 is what he's got himself listed as. So it's not a player that I feel like is not going to be able to get bigger and stronger. But if he comes in at 6'4", 6'5", and he's already out there, with the size and strength you're looking for. I looked at the picture of him next to Brent Venables, and I know BV's at least 6'2", and he towers BV, right? He gives BV a run for his money. I'm pretty excited to see if the Sooners land him. The defense is definitely going to be on a big time run. I expect more afterwards.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Jaden Jackson recruitment where he was a 3-star prospect. He was visiting Texas, and I was getting excited and getting pumped about the fact that Oklahoma was in on this one, and bummed at the idea that he was trending towards Texas. And people are like, "Oh, it's just a 3-star." Well, here we are.
Freshman All-American.
Bryant Harris has some similar traits, just incredibly athletic, incredibly physical, great size as a high school going into his senior year. This dude can play. He can absolutely play. Don't let the star status fool you. He's going to be a big-time player at the collegiate level. That's why Michigan, Penn State, Alabama are coming after him. He, according to guys like Parker Thune, Brandon Drum, he wants to play in the SEC. That means for me that Oklahoma has a really good shot here, because they're in the SEC now. And this is why that SEC move is so important, because it gives you that recruiting bump. Now it's a matter of just going and winning games in the SEC. But yeah, love Bryant Harris, love his game. I think he's got tremendous upside. He plays a lot of defensive end for Mandarin, but he projects as a defensive tackle, a guy that can play that 3 technique that plays between the guard and the tackle. Or if they wanted to really bump him up weight-wise and get him into that nose tackle range in the 320, 330 range, he could certainly play some nose. He's got good length, good strength, and again, he plays physically. I love his game. Absolutely love his game. The other one that Oklahoma received a prediction for, this one kind of came out of nowhere. This is Matthew Nelson, a currently unrated edge rusher out of Bryant, Arkansas. If that name is familiar to you, that's the place that Ja'Cory Smith is transferring to, Oklahoma's 4-star linebacker commitment from last week. Matthew Nelson, dude, again, a guy that's starting to get a lot of looks from a lot of places across the country. Oklahoma's in early, but was predicted by a couple places, one from Parker Thune of OU Insider, and then one from a Texas recruiting analyst as well.
Yeah, everyone is starting to believe that Oklahoma is finding a lot of diamonds in the rough. This is that Jim Nagy's special. This is why you bring in a person like Nagy. They go look for particular traits you can get out of elite play. And at 6'5", 205 for an edge, all you got to do is beef him up. He looks like he has the frame that can handle up to about probably 250. So he'll probably put on at least 45 pounds over the next couple of years, especially being in a training program in Oklahoma. So he has a very good chance of being a nice hit for the Sooners. I like his game. I mean, and as you mentioned, a Texas analyst said, yeah, Oklahoma's probably going to win this recruitment. He is a relentless pursuer. As I'm watching his tape, all he does is nonstop. That motor just keeps going. Mm-hmm. And we've always known Oklahoma and Miguel Chavis liking players like that when you throw them on the field, they're going to keep pursuing. They're not going to pout if they miss the play. They're going to, if they over pursue, they're going to turn around and they're going to keep chasing just in case there's a chance. And when that chance happens, they typically land a nice hit, force a fumble, get a strip, whatever. Always happens whenever you don't stop moving. And he's one of those players that do a lot of relentless pursuit. He keeps going after the play. Violent, good use of hands. I feel like Oklahoma is going to find a lot more players like this. Plus, they're going to get some household names too. Just you wait. The big visit weekends are coming up here in June. So that's when Oklahoma is really going to put all of their eggs in their baskets. They're going to really heavily go after guys when they can get them back in person. But this is another player that it looks like a Nagy special, and with his staff that they're looking for a different type of player.
Yeah, you mentioned the pursuitability and the motor that he plays with. It reminds me of Ethan Downs. I mean, the intelligence with which he plays, because you can go watch his highlights over on Huddle and you can see that when he's responsible for setting the backside edge, he does it. He puts himself in a position to play the backside if the running back cuts back, and he's right there. And he will stretch the play out. He'll maintain that edge, stretch the play out, allow him and the linebackers to get out into space and make plays. He's very athletic, though. Like, I think he is a really good athlete for his 6'5" size. Sometimes juniors in high school at 6'5", it can be a little bit clunky. He's not. He's very smooth with his movements. I like his play strength, too. There's several times where he's, latching on to offensive linemen because they're thinking maybe it's a run, or he's making sure that he holds up against the run. He's just not blowing by guys. He's two-gapping, being responsible for both the gap on the inside and the outside of the offensive tackle, latches on, and then just pulls the offensive tackle down. Like, just pulls him and runs by him. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, okay, I see you, Matthew Nelson. Let me get some more of that. But as you mentioned, man, if he bulks up, he's able to get, it's going to take a couple years to get him up to where you might want him in the 250 range. But if you can get him to 230 during his true freshman season, over that first offseason, if he's a spring enrollee, I don't know if he plays basketball, if that's going to be part of what his future holds before he gets to college. But if you can bulk him up a little bit as a true freshman and then just keep working, he's going to have a chance, man, to be really, really good. Again, you're looking at length. And that length is important because it helps keep offensive tackles from blocking you. You got those long arms. It's going to give you an advantage over some of these offensive tackles that have shorter arms. And this is the kind of stuff that Jim Nagy's looking for. Draftable traits. And he's got them in spades. So an intriguing prospect. Again, right now, currently unrated, but I imagine that will change.
Yeah.
People will find out more about him. So,
yeah, I 100% agree that in some time you're going to find out a lot about this kid. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens also in the Cotton Bowl this year. It's going to be a very different story than what happened last year. Let's talk Oklahoma, Texas, coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.